games just show up in my Steam library. When someone suggested I check out Age of Empires 3, I found it in my Steam library. I didn't remember buying it, so I must have added it when I saw the free-to-play button on Steam, clicked the button and slapped that bad boy into my Steam library. Who knows how long it's been sitting in my library? When I finally decided to install it and give it a go, only to realize after the fact that I was playing as free-to-play and not the actual game. And it's severely limited due to its free-to-play status, and to play the whole game I've got to buy the base game at full price. Nah, I think I'll wait for a Steam sale to pick it up someday. Age of Empires 3 is an RTS game, that stands for Real-Time Strategy, developed by Ensemble Studios. Age of Empires 3 was released in 2005, the definitive edition was released in 2020, and sometime in 2023 it went free-to-play, with the base game being sold at full price as DLC. People already owning the game automatically should have both, though.
Our ship is badly damaged. Start a colony on this island and wait for more ships to arrive from Malta.
Commandment? Yes.
Cecil. Schau, nie mission. Wie kennt you us? I'm a picture.
Yes, he will.
Date or die. Wie kennt you us? Nie mission. Continue expanding the colony.
In Celeste, my last review, someone commented and suggested checking out a shopping list of games, which is great. But one of the games listed I already had in my Steam library, Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. It was indeed in my Steam library, but it was the free version, not the whole game. So I downloaded the whole 50 gigabytes to merely play the severely limited free version of the game. But because I'm not a quitter, I'm still going to make a review for this game, darn it. Also, a note which will probably become a comment eventually because I'm not making this note early enough in the video. The free-to-play version of Age of Empires 3 is on Steam, not on the Xbox Store or really any other store that I know of. But if it does come out on any other platforms, this is what you can expect from free-to-play Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition.
Oh,
Suck.
There is a story mode. I can only really comment on the first campaign and the first act of that campaign. The other two are locked behind the base game. Each level has an in-game cinematic before it, explaining what's happening in the story. Simply put, for the Blood, Ice, and Steel Act 1 story, you play as Knight Templar Who's-His-Face, chasing after Middle Eastern What's-His-Name, and you meet up and battle with Captain Miss Pirate Whatnot. And eventually the whole group needs to come together to fight their true foe and save the world or something. Alright. My point is the names aren't that memorable, and it's more their nationality or status which was memorable about them. Templar man's name is Morgan Black, who just every mention of the Templar Order made me think I was playing Assassin's Creed, but as the bad guys. The Middle Easterner's name was Sahin the Falcon. Technically, he's from the Ottoman Empire, also known as the Turkish Empire, and that's right between Europe and the Middle East, so maybe that's not a fair assessment after all. Lastly, Captain Pirate Lady's name is Elizabeth Ramsey. Pirates be pirates, don't know what else to tell you about her. True to branding, she is a pirate. At least they don't leave you on a cliffhanger at the end of Act 1, but the goal of a free-to-play game would be to buy the rest of the game. And I say, mission successful. I would have preferred to just keep playing the campaign instead of stopping at the end of Act 1.
Bombard forward! Cecil, the Realsi, the bar. Good work.
I'm going to start the gameplay section off with my usual reminders when it comes to RTS games. I'm not anything special. I'm probably average at best, and likely I'm worse than average. And I'm not disparaging, I'm just being realistic. I know I'm not really good at micromanaging or moving around the map fast enough to keep up with all that's going on. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy playing RTS games from time to time. I just can't keep up with them competitively and can't judge them based on that criteria. As a reminder, if you haven't watched my Warcraft 3 Reforged review, which of course I suggest you do, the general idea of RTS games is to manage resources to build an army to beat up your enemies faster than they can grow, so you'll be managing troop movements, economic developments, exploration, and to add another layer to the RTS dynamic, you can request shipments from your home city. Each civilization will have different strengths and weaknesses. I personally struggled more with nations that didn't have cannons or artillery. There are 22 civilizations in total, but you will only have access to 3 at a time while playing free-to-play. Even with the base game, 5 civilizations are still behind more DLC purchases. Generally speaking, your most important building is the town center, where you can build worker units to chop down trees, mine for money, hunt or farm for food, and build more buildings. I would suggest checking out the Age of Empires 3 tutorial first, then do the Art of War missions to really have a firm understanding of how gameplay works.
His Majestät, Nouvelle! Skakui! Hör kungen!
Some people like tutorials, some people dislike them. When I first loaded up Age of Empires 3, I didn't have any pop-ups or tutorials suggested for me, so I looked around at the menus and decided to take the tutorials for myself to see if anything had changed. Seeing as I've only just recently wrapped up Warcraft 3, I wasn't expecting the mechanics to be very different. The tutorial is under the Tools menu and gives you a general idea of how to move the camera, move troops, and build stuff. The next tutorial, Try a Game, helps ease you more into the game. I tend to learn better on the fly anyway. The problem with RTS games is that learning on the fly could put you behind your opponent enough that it's a very real risk of losing the whole game because of a critical error or flaw. Like I didn't realize how to garrison troops in towers or in my town center. Turns out you don't do that with troops, you do it with workers, or peons or peasants, if you're familiar with the Warcraft vernacular. The last tutorial was just text boxes for learning how to play the Tycoon game mode, where it's all about getting different economic goals met to achieve victory. I didn't do much with this, but I did look through the tutorial and tried the demo game. But the whole Tycoon game mode is only available after you buy the DLC for it, but it lets you play the demo version in the game. After the tutorials, I jumped straight into story mode and figured out everything else on my own over time. But what I really should have done next was to play The Art of War. Tutorials hosted by ya boy, Karl von Clausewitz. For those of you who might not follow the significance here, The Art of War is a book written by a Chinese strategist and philosopher. The name might sound slightly similar to someone else you might be familiar with, because Atratzu is a fan of Sun Tzu. However, you'll notice we are being taught by a Prussian man and not a Chinese man. Karl von Clausewitz wrote probably the second most popular military strategy book, called On War. I have both books in my library. And for anyone who's studied military history or read these books, this wasn't educational at all. But for those of you who were unaware, maybe you've learned something new today. Anyway, this game mode will round out the edges of the strategies and teach you some more nuanced details of Age of Empires 3. Here's a few highlighted things I learned. When hunting wildlife, try to have your workers attack them from the outside of the herd to guide the herd closer to the center of town. Always try to be building as many workers as possible. Almost always keep your town center busy at the start of the game, building or upgrading. And when your town is under attack, put your workers into the town center to provide a support tower to shoot the attackers. The more workers, the stronger the attack. I also learned the rock, paper, scissors match of infantry beats cavalry, cavalry beats range, and range beats infantry is in effect here. But I learned that from playing medieval Total War. The better you play the tutorial, the higher of an award you're given, with the lowest being a bronze, then silver, and gold being the best. You'll probably notice the only gold I got was the one with the artillery. I didn't need von Clausewitz's help to learn that one. I already knew the cannons like a baby Napoleon.
You have successfully defeated the enemy and learned about how artillery works. You are now ready for the battlefield, Commander.
Next, let's talk about game modes. And by that, I mean you can play the game in story mode, where you have a story to go along with the gameplay, and get a cutscene between every battle. Then, at the end, you get an actual good cinematic with the characters, kind of like the intro video for the game. But of course, playing for free, I could only play Act 1. And that's it. It did leave me wanting more, though. Then you have historical battles. I think games like Civilization, Total War, or Age of Empires are designed to specifically appeal to history buffs. But I must confess, I'm not really one of those. I hope someday these battles will actually stick in my mind, because then if I visit the location, I can appreciate what happened there. But being a free-to-player, you can only play Algiers 1516. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I wasn't expecting any verbal dialogue for this section, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think it would be really great to learn about the actual battle from a history course, then go and play the level for yourself. Just like most of the content in Age of Empires 3, you can play most missions, campaigns, battles, etc. on one of 3 difficulties. Standard, which is just easy but no one wanted to insult me, moderate, and hard. Each one being represented by a bronze, silver, or gold medal respectively. Lastly, we have the skirmish mode, which has all the settings you could wish for. You can select the map, choose from 2 to 8 players, choose the nation, team, customize the game rules, select between Supremacy, Deathmatch, Empire Wars, and the Tycoon demo game modes. Remember though, you can only play as the 3 available civilizations for the week. The computer players, on the other hand, can be anybody, even the DLC civilizations. That's all the game modes. It's worth noting that, with exception to the story mode, the rest can be played in multiplayer, even the historical battles. That's just a really nice feature to have in a game. I played a multiplayer game against an AI to get a few achievements, but other than just not being able to pause the game when you want, it's basically the same experience as single player. For the sake of science, I joined a game which was specifically for beginners, and to no one's surprise, I got destroyed. Don't know what I did wrong or could have done better, but after my partner forfeited, I knew the Grim Reaper was coming for me. So I tried to make the most of a bad situation, and while green and purple were tap dancing on my town's ruins, I tried to rebuild on the other side of my blue ally's base, thereby forcing them to walk through his base. In the rush of the moment, I didn't realize I sent the message over Allies chat instead of all chat, but I wanted to communicate to them. There's a wall here! You can't come in! And my last words were, you hate to see it. Just the way God intended. The other 2 players couldn't see my death messages, but at least you all can. Oh, and a few notes from the game. The other 2 players were definitely not free-to-players because they weren't playing Civilization's part of the rotation. Also, I'm not certain they were beginners. Obviously, they were better than me. Everyone in the game was better than me. My poor teammate had to carry me. It didn't help when I realized my teammate was stealing gold from my mine, too. That's another dynamic to being on a team. In some respects, you're both working towards the same objective, but it's a crowded space and people can step on each other's toes. I like having me some customizations, and I'm not used to having that as an option in strategy games. But there are a few different ways you can customize your stuff in Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. Your home city is customizable. As you play through the game, you'll earn experience points towards your city. When you level up, you'll get customization points which can be exchanged for cosmetic upgrades to your city. It's not much, but it gives you a sense of progression while you're playing the game. And I like it. Your explorer is also customizable. Normally I'd name the hero Atratzu, but the default name is a historic figure and it felt wrong to change that. You can also customize your explorer's skin, and by that I mean if you have the full game. I can't customize it. You can customize your deck builder. Remember, this is the support package you get from your home city while playing the game. So if you know exactly what strategy you're playing towards, you can customize the deck. For example, obviously if you're fighting on land, you don't need ships. So the default differences between land, navy, and tycoon decks is a no-brainer. But again, if you know your strategy and your civilization's strengths, you'll definitely want to customize this to be more efficient to your goals. The last customizable is under the multiplayer menu. You can't click the character portrait on the main menu. No, you've got to go buy the base game for that feature. You can click on your name in the top right of the main menu screen, or click multiplayer to see your profile and clan. Of course, there's nothing to do with your profile because you need to pay money to change your profile picture. So Bear, the brown-haired, bearded dude in the blue shirt, in shame with the rest of us, cheapskates and villains. Speaking of which, you can make and join clans. I already knew that no one would want me in their clan, so I decided to make the free-to-play clan. So everyone can see FIP in front of my name and wonder, what the heck is that all about? I went with Roman numeral 2 because the normal number 2 was taken. Shaking my head. Anyway, you can join too if you want. Don't know if I'll ever get around to buying the whole game because that's what I'll be waiting for.
Burn the camp to the ground! We will drive these Spanish besiegers from Algiers!
Let's wrap this video up with a reminder of what you don't have as a free-to-play player on Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. You don't have anything in the story past Act 1 of the first campaign. You can't play any civilization other than the 3 rotating civilizations. You get a new one every week, by the way. Not a new set of 3 civilizations. You lose a civilization and gain a new one. You can't play any of the other 5 historical battles from the base game, or the other 6 DLC-related historical battles. You can't do anything in the scenario editor or mods under the Tools menu. You can't customize your profile picture. Is it sad that bugs me the most out of this list? And of course you can't do customizations which require DLC, like the full Tycoon game mode, certain civilizations, etc. You'll see the pop-up notification,
"This content is unavailable. Visit the store page to purchase the game."
a lot. But all things considered, this was more gameplay options than an outright demo would allow, and it leaves you wanting more, but also gives you enough to potentially stick around. And here we are again, at the conclusion. I don't know if this is a review for Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, or Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition free-to-play. We'll go with the latter for now, but the good news is you can just download and play the game and decide for yourself if you want to buy the base game. If you've got a working computer and a Steam account, you can just add this to your library and give it a try. It's way better than most mobile games I've played for free, I'll tell you that much. I'm always pro-demo. The more you can experience the game before you decide if you actually want to buy it, the better it is for the consumer. Offering a free-to-play option seems like it was a good play for the Age of Empires team. The only downside is that you still need to download the whole 50 gigabyte game, even if you use probably a quarter of the content you've downloaded. Regardless, as far as I'm concerned, Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, free to play, is pretty fun. It's a win-win. It's a win for those who want to try it out, and a win for those who want to save money but still want to play Age of Empires 3. While this isn't exactly the review I was planning on writing, I thought I was actually going to play all of Age of Empires 3, but this is how it turned out. And you know what? That's okay. My reviews are part video game coverage and part story on their own. Thank you for joining me for this one. Follow me on all the social medias you use. If I don't have one, let me know, and maybe I will make one. No promises. I'm getting to old fart status, and you kids and your rap music sometimes annoy me. My name is Atratzu, not Sun Tzu. That's a far more famous Tzu. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Sneak, get him.
My empire is suffering. Hoai Nakaupak has no choice but to concede.